Hey everyone, happy Future Friday. I got a question for you. Do you know which skills the top leaders have mastered in order to go further and faster than all the others in the leadership space? Well, I'm going to share with you the 5 essentials that I have discovered and that I have been working on both in my own as well as with other executives through my coaching. And this is going to be that big, eye-opening conversation that simplifies all of the complexity, all of the misdirection that you've been wondering in your leadership journey. And I'm going to help you finally get the tools that you need to show up ready with your leadership journey. If you're just watching for the first time, if we're just now meeting, my name is Peter Birchfield. I'm an executive coach, and I'm here to help you prepare to go there. And I'm so excited. The content is literally just fiery today. I have so much pent up passion that I want to share with you because you need encouragement, you need clarity, you need the skill set, the mindset to really pioneer the future frontier, where you're going next, how you're going to get there, how you're going to get other people there. Oh, yeah. And we're living in one of the most disruptive time periods in history. So, yeah, great job. You wanted to be a leader in one of the most challenging generations. So, way to go. But no, for real, I want to encourage you that it is a good thing to aspire to be a leader because leaders can serve more people. They can make a bigger impact. They can go the distance and make a difference. And so that's why I appreciate anyone who's still willing to be a good leader, who's still willing to show up, step up, and show up and shine, right? So let me dive in with a few of these things going on here. We're going to be talking about the essentials. I'm boiling it down. I'm making it simple. I'm helping you have a great day. I'm helping you go into the weekend feeling like a winner. I'm helping you with your leadership journey. And that's why we've got to talk about this. Speaking of talking, this is meant to be a conversation. That's why I show up live. That's why we put in the work on Future Fridays. And so put in the comments where you're watching from, what kind of leadership field you're in. I'm very interested in this growing community, and I'm here to help. Speaking of, I want to start with some case studies, okay? And we're gonna figure out which 5 skills the top leaders have mastered in order to get so far. But before that, and here it is, I'm going to show you what it is. Right here, IFDIC. You're like, what is that? Well, I'm going to tell you in just a little bit. Those are the essentials. But I had 2 questions come across, I think, last week. And I wanted to prioritize those questions because I really appreciate them reaching out. So one leader wanted to know, what do you do when you have someone on the team who is uncooperative? They're really not getting on board with anything you're asking them to do. And not only that, it seems like they're purposefully going against the grain. You know, it's like, come on, I'm trying to work with you. You're trying to do the opposite. I'm bending over backwards to make this, a good, productive work experience for you. You're working hard at being doing the opposite. You're working to be uncooperative. What do you do when you got a team member like that? You're working with an associate, and they are planning ways to make things harder and disagreeable. Well, there's 2 approaches, okay? If they are if they're in your range of responsibility, meaning you are the direct report and you have the ability to actually hire, fire, repurpose, you have a little bit more influence in the matter, it'd be really good to start with the question, do they want to be here? That's kind of foundational. I'm not trying to complicate it, drag it further than it has to go. but really cut to the chase, because what happens with an uncooperative team member is sideways energy. There's so much sideways energy that comes in, and you're actually wasting time, wasting energy, and you're not getting the work done. And I promise you, if you have an uncooperative team member that's showing up in your zone, they are carrying far less than you are. You're probably carrying a lot more. You're probably working harder, thinking longer, having more conversations. You're praying at night, Lord, help me, help me. They could care less. They're not thinking about that at all. So I want to give you permission to kind of care less. I'm not saying be a careless person. I'm not saying don't be a caring person. I'm saying you just have to realize how much time, how much emotional bandwidth is being used up with this one thing. So we got to cut to the chase, get it done, get it out of the way, move on. And one of those questions, this is just one prompt out of many you can consider, but one of those questions is, do you want to even be here? Why do you want to be here? And that is kind of a filter that you can start with and say, okay, you're telling me you want to be here. If you want to be here, this is what it looks like. This is what we expect. This is what winning looks like. And just start with that conversation. Now, if you do not have that kind of influence where you could actually make some sort of change and you're working more side by side or you're working above, which kind of gets to the other question that we're going to talk about. In that case, you're going to have to know your boundaries. You're going to have to maintain a more professional relationship. And you can't waste time. You can't mess around. You just have to get in there, get your work done, and you're going to have to win in the long run. So you're going to have to play a little bit more of a long game. But it still goes back to that question. Do you want to be there? Do you want them to be there? What does it look like when someone wants to be on the team? And when they don't, now you have clear grounds to begin that conversation of why, what's not working, how do we make it work? And then you can actually build your case and get your data to show to your other supervisors or a manager or someone who's actually in that role, maybe someone in HR. Now you're collecting data to start that conversation. But I would say, please do yourself a favor and your team quit wasting so much emotional energy, because I can promise you, if they're uncooperative, they don't care at the same level that you do. So that is that. I'm going to show you again the 5 essentials, and then I'm going to answer another question. I need to make one. This is happening live. I'm going to make one change on the backside here, and check this out while I fix it. All right, so you're wondering, what is this? What does this all mean? I'm going to tell you in just a moment. Okay, let me get to this second question. I really appreciated it. It's a tough one. I feel for you. This actually motivates me to do what I do, which is to bring encouragement and coaching to leaders on their journey. And, we have conferences and books that can give you mountaintop moments. But what about the process of being a leader, actually going through the journey? I remember my wife and I, we went with some of our dear friends on a hiking trip. That's like one of the things we do. It's this metaphor of hiking and pioneering and, going through the wilderness. It's like a metaphor that relates to me so much about life and about leadership. And so we're going in Florida. And this was, I think, probably 2020. So Florida was kind of hopping at that time, right? And so we went over there and it was awesome. Celebrated my wife's birthday, went canoeing, and then went on this trail. So we were told there's a lake. Go find the lake. It's a beautiful lake. You just hike for a little bit. It's a short hike. And then, well, something that's short to one person who like does this for a living, or they're just find enjoyment of exhausting themselves. It was not that short. I mean, I feel like I'm a pretty semi-active guy, and it was not a short hike. And we were literally going through this one patch There were no trees at all. It was just burning July summer heat. We're just going, it literally looked like scorched earth. And we're just wondering, is there, after a while, you're wondering, is there really a lake out there? And sure enough, we found the lake. It took a while, but so thankful that I did not try to find that lake on my own. I had my wife and then our two friends. And so we had all of the skills necessary in the group where I was there, just to keep kind of like that positive attitude, just keep swimming kind of stuff. And then, we had our other friend, Matthew, and he was the navigator. So he was kind of figuring it out. And then my wife is the motivator in our group. She's like amazing and tough as nails. I say that as a compliment. And so she was like, no nonsense. She's like, hey, don't complain. Just keep pushing, keep going. And then Kelly, our other friend, she was just all about the fun. And she was just bringing that life and that spark and everything. So we finally found the lake and we need to have this. And so many times, y'all, we have these situations like, what do we do? How do we process this? How do we navigate this? And so this is another question that came in. This question, I actually know this leader. So I really feel for you. And I think you're amazing. And don't get discouraged. You will work through this. This will actually be a story that you get to share. It'll be a hopeful story. It'll be an encouraging story. This will be something that you learn, and it'll become a tool that you can work with for the rest of your leadership journey. What do you do when you are on a team and the team leader is really causing a lot of pain and friction for the team? Meaning they're not stepping up yet. They're kind of more on the immature side. We don't really know how they got in this position. Maybe there was some favoritism, or maybe there was some sort of glitch in the interview process, or maybe they've just been there a long time, and so they've just kind of gotten promoted through tenure and not through their tenacity to grow and be a great leader for other people. What do you do when you have this really difficult situation? Because it's not like you have a lot of options, right? I mean, it's either you kind of, it's a very uncomfortable, difficult experience. And so what I would encourage you to do is simply this. Realize that real influence goes both ways. So yes, they influence the schedule. They influence the assignments. They influence the work pairs, the work combinations. They're the ones scheduling who goes where and who does what and all this stuff. But you also have influence. And so I would really encourage you to look for creative ways to lead up, to influence up. And the scripture that comes to mind is we lead by example. We lead by example. And so what will actually happen is people gravitate towards strength. When things are shaky, when things don't make sense, people are looking for people who can be a strength and not a burden. And whenever you have a leader that is a burden and not a strength, people find they feel it, they know it. And so just keep leading by example. And what happens is you'll create a new culture, and you'll be a part of a new culture there that either inspires immature people to step up and grow up, or it actually just kind of flushes out some of the weirdness in that environment. And so stay with it. It is a little bit more of a long game for you, but I really believe for both leaders and for both case studies, these essentials are absolutely going to help you to change your work culture, to raise the bar, and to inspire more leaders to be thriving right there where you are. So please, I take questions here on YouTube and also on my Instagram. And so feel free to reach out. And if I can help you, I would love to. All right. So, what this shows me is that so many leaders, unfortunately, can get too preoccupied with just being a leader that they're not working on their leadership. They're not working on becoming a better leader for the next phase and for more responsibility. And so this is why I created the Prepared Leader Challenge. I'm actually trying it a few different ways. I've done it as an ongoing challenge. I've done it as kind of like a workshop. I also have the content on demand. So I have different routes that I'm trying out right now. Please let me know in the comments which delivery system would resonate with you, would work with you in your schedule. I just want to get this content out. This is high value leadership preparedness. I've packaged kind of the DNA, so to speak, of being a prepared leader. And I've put it in five decisions that you and I need to make. So and please let me know which delivery system works for you, and we'll get it to you. But I like showing up. I like putting in the reps. I like being here for other leaders. So if I can do this in a live environment, that'd be my favorite. But it doesn't matter. Okay. Well, let's get into, here we go, the big five. I want to show you what they all are. I want to give it to you right away. Take a screenshot, do whatever you want to do. These are Peter's big five. Big five. You know, like when you go on a safari and you got your camera, you're looking for, different animals, and you're wondering like, oh man, am I going to see a lion today? Am I going to see a, it's like we're looking out for the big five. Okay. So these are Peter's big five. Now I want to give a disclaimer. Number one, these are just the essentials. I'm not saying that this is everything, but what I'm trying to do is give a succinct toolkit for leaders who want to go further in their leadership journey. The other thing is they kind of do all overlap, you know what I mean? Because like I said, they'll become a toolkit for you. But I have seen in my own 15-year plus leadership journey, as well as the executive coaching that I do with business owners, entrepreneurs, pastors, church planters, creatives, solopreneurs, you name it, I always see questions in these five categories. I always see systems and solutions cropping up in these five categories. So that's why I want to present to you my big five list of leadership essentials. Okay, the skills that we need to understand and expand in order to go further. And that's the big challenge, right? Is that there's a few challenges that you're in right now. You're bored, or you're stuck, or you're too familiar. And so you don't know how to go further in your leadership. And a lot of the challenges that you're facing are just kind of orbiting around plateau, internal plateau. The moment you shift in your mindset and your skill set, then you go further, and then all those challenges are behind you. They literally become obsolete. You take on new challenges. But when we talk about the skills, these five skills that top leaders are making in order to go further, and how did they succeed? How did they get to the top of their field? How did they get to the top of their industry? How did they get to the top of their leadership community? Well, it's because they learned these five skills. And yeah, they now have a toolkit that they can reach into and use at will. But I think, and what we're going to see, is that this is a progression, and you focus on one skill at a time, and it actually force multiplies the momentum that you need for your leadership journey. And that's how they got so far. They learned how to shift gears. They learned how to go from initiate to facilitate. They learned how to facilitate and then go to delegate. They learned how to go from delegate into investigate. They learned how to go from investigate to communicate. All right, so let's see what we can find here. The first one I want to talk about is initiate. This is the first skill set that we as leaders need to have. And this is really a self-leadership piece, right? This is where we say, the challenge I'm facing is no momentum. I have no momentum in my health. I have no momentum in my habits. I have no momentum in my scheduling. I have no momentum in my work. I have no momentum. I need to get something going here. How do I get myself going? You have to initiate. The skill that will help you succeed as a self-leader, the skill that will help you stand out in your team, the skill that will help you break through in your field or in your industry is the skill to initiate. Because when you learn how to tap in to the unlimited power of personal momentum, you know how to start yourself. You know how to get yourself going. You know how to initiate. It's an unstoppable force. You don't feel contained. You don't feel blocked. You don't feel stopped or stalled by circumstances or by other people because you know the power of initiating. And initiating is simply the willingness to do something that is important enough even when others aren't with you. It's kind of like the primal attribute of a pioneering thinker, a pioneering leader. Are you willing to go for something even if other people don't go with you at first? Are you willing to start something and to move in a direction even when other people don't know about it or don't care about it, right? That is what we are thinking about. How do we initiate? And what I have found in my own leadership journey is that I have to be willing to initiate far more often than I feel comfortable with. I have to reach out more than I feel comfortable with. I have to put myself out there more than I feel comfortable with. I have to offer 100 ideas before I get to, the 5 ideas that really stick. So you have to initiate the conversation. You have to initiate the ideas. You have to initiate the projects. You have to offer to help. You have to be willing to take that first step. But I'm telling you, that skill alone, just boil that down. That skill alone is going to take you so far because I promise you, other people are not taking initiative. They don't have that mindset yet. And we've got to help them. We've got to encourage them on our team. The value of taking initiative, the value of initiating an idea, initiating a challenge, initiating a new relationship, initiating a new possibility. Man, always initiate communication, always initiate collaboration, always initiate completion, always initiate. Man, you have this built-in mechanism that says we can go for it. And that go for it mindset is kind of the foundation that takes us into the future, that takes us really to the top of whatever mountain you're scaling, right? All right, so I'm going to kind of zig and zag through this, but for now, let me do the first wave. I want to talk about the next piece because I love this quote by Tom Peters, "What got you here won't get you there." And so a lot of people, they're really good at being action takers. Honestly, I was not the action taker. I was the thinker. I was the tinker thinker. That's me. That's what I do really well. That's what I enjoy doing. I lean more introverted. And so I'm the guy who's going to, kind of be in my digital den, in my hobbit hole, and I'm going to be thinking and praying and strategizing and learning. I had to learn the value of taking initiative. So many things got so much easier when I was simply willing to take initiative for myself, not to wait on other people, not to wait for the right time, not to wait for a better plan, not to wait for some sign, to come fall on my lap and say, because all it was just more and more padding for insecurity. Right. And we keep moving the goal line. We keep saying, no, I'm not ready yet. No, I'm not ready yet. No, I'm not ready yet. Well, hey, if you're the kid who's on the diving board and you got a whole line of people waiting behind you to go take the jump, then It's not a timing issue. It's not a ability issue. It's a confidence issue. And so you need to hear someone who's on, who's behind you in line, or someone who's in the water who's already taken the jump. I'm using a metaphor here, and say, "You got this. Take the jump. Initiate. Go for it." Right? That motivation, you got to have that voice speaking into you. And if you don't have that, if you're not hearing that kind of voice, resident voice inside yet, then let someone else from the outside share that encouragement, share that positivity, share that motivation, and say, "Go for it." You got to know how to initiate. And this skill is amazing for leaders, particularly when you're starting out. If you're in your 20s, if you're still in high school, this is going to separate you. I'm telling you, for the better. This is going to help you break out. This is going to help you go far. You have to learn how to initiate your habits. Initiate, meaning you have to get yourself going. You have to wake yourself up in the morning. You have to make the plan for the week. You have to have the honest conversation, even when it feels awkward. Putting yourself out there is what pioneers do. We go first. We go to the front lines. We figure things out on the way. And it's because we're developing that mindset, that confidence to initiate, and not just one time. And I think that needs to be said. Other people initiate maybe once a year. They'll put themselves out there. Risk is another word that fits in this category. Other people, they initiate things maybe once a year. I think the top leaders, based on research and based on the relationships that I have access to, they're initiating daily. Man, they're initiating things all the time. And so we've got to get really comfortable with being the person who catalyzes opportunity, catalyzes all these things that we need in order to succeed. All right. So after you initiate, you get really good at taking action. You have fun initiating. You see the results of it. You know what it feels like when you go for it. It's not enough just to initiate. Because if you initiate everything, and if you initiate all the time, and you're the only one who initiates in your team context, guess what's going to happen? You're going to get overextended. You're going to get overextended. You're going to get hurt. Your feelings are going to get hurt because you're saying, "Man, am I the only one doing something around here? Am I the only one who cares? Am I the only one who's thinking? Am I the only one?" And you start entertaining these isolating ideas, and you start entertaining and letting it sink in, and it starts to sour in your head and in your heart, and it really taints the working relationships you have around you. And that's why we have to shift gears. And like Tom Peters says, what got you here won't get you there. So that's why we have to learn another skill, because some leaders, they know the value of taking risk and initiative and doing things for themselves and doing things by themselves, but that will only take you so far. And so the top leaders that went further and they got to the top faster, they learned another skill. And that other skill is the ability to facilitate. The ability to facilitate. This has been one of the most rewarding skills that I've been able to learn. Another way you could say it is collaborate. I like collaboration. Collaboration's great. But I wanted to use the word facilitate because you really do have to come in as a group facilitator. Collaborate, I would say is more about finding people like-minded, finding people that you enjoy working with, creating something new or needed together. Facilitate is a leadership concept. Facilitate means if I'm not here, these people wouldn't naturally work together, right? If I'm not here, we couldn't get to peak results together. And so it takes someone who has emotional intelligence. It takes someone who has patience. It takes someone who has a plan to show up and say, "Hey, I'm not going to belittle you, but I am going to work to blend all of these points of view. I'm going to work to build one big team instead of trying to just make stuff happen in all these individual conversations and text threads and emails. I'm actually going to rally. I'm actually going to find common ground. I'm going to carve out space and time in the weekly calendar or in the monthly calendar, and I'm going to work. I'm going to figure out how do I facilitate a high value meeting. Oh my goodness, man, being a project manager, being a team builder, being someone who has to facilitate a lot of people and a lot of projects, it takes a lot of work. And I know you know that. And so I just want to commend you. If you're willing to pick up this skill, you're going to get the rewards of it. You're going to get results, but you're also going to grow relationships. And we never want to pick one team or the other, right? We never want to say, I'm just here for the results. You know, whatever you want to do with your life, that's fine. Get out of here. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, as you go through this process of facilitating meaningful conversations, as you start to unearth, the values, the objectives, you begin to work on something more than just the task. You actually see yourself pouring more and more of your time and energy into this idea called the team, right? And it force multiplies your productivity. It force multiplies your sense of winning because now you're winning together. And so it's hard work to get a high performing team. It's tough, but it's worth it. And so I want to challenge you, make this step, take this next step and learn, how am I going to facilitate? And the choice or the shift that we have to make is we have to say, I'm not going to lead alone. I used to lead alone because I had to, right? When I was initiating everything, what was the pain point? It's that no one can help me. No one knows what I'm thinking. No one is listening. And so you got to be okay and have tough skin and a tender heart and say, I still am passionate about this. If it's important enough to do, I'm willing to do it alone for a time. And so you have to step out and be kind of like the person who starts something and catalyze it. But then now you got some action, you got some traction, and you have to actually do what feels very different than what got you to this point. You have to do something that kind of takes you out of your comfort zone because you built a skill, right? You worked on that muscle for a while. So now you feel comfortable with that motion, that movement, that function. But now you have to say, no, there's other functions to develop for my leadership journey, because just initiating everything won't get me all the way. But the next level is facilitate. How do I facilitate a group of people, right? I'm leading myself. Now I'm leading others. I'm leading others into shared values. I'm leading others into productive conversations. I'm leading others into cooperation and facilitating. One of the best things that I've seen personally and then in the coaching work that I do is creating a structured approach to your team meetings, because a structured approach helps keep the team on the rails so we don't derail into personal things or things that just we don't have time to deal with now. And you just be patient and you just keep putting in that structure. That's what the drills are for, right? When you have a sports team, it's what the practices are for. You're just putting in the reps. And facilitating is a valuable skill. I believe it's a high value skill. I know there are other coaches, this is what they do. High paying skill to just facilitate really productive meetings. I want my meeting, whenever I host a meeting, whether it's coaching or whether it's in my executive leadership work, I want it to be valuable. I don't want it to be dumb, boring. I heard a quote that said, meetings are the place where you track minutes and waste hours. I love that. Meetings are where you track minutes and waste hours. Nobody wants to be in a meeting, right? They don't want to waste time. Particularly if you have a great team of initiators, they've all kind of gone through that first stage. They initiate well together. They don't want to sit around and just, get facts pounded on them. No, they want to say, what are we doing now? What are we doing next? So either way, if you have people that love meetings and all they want to do is have more meetings and more meetings, I would put a red flag on that because we're not here to talk. We're here to do. We're here to get things done, and not just some generic thing. Everybody, they're so excited. They're like, we're so productive because we can get things done. We're getting things done. It's like, that is literally the lowest form of productivity, is just getting things done. I know you're probably thinking, oh, Peter, shots fired. What's happening? No, you know what's really productive? Doing the right things in the right order at the right time with the right people for the right reasons. That, my friends, takes time. And the way we develop something like that is by being patient with people, realizing that if we want to go fast, as the proverb says, this African proverb says, if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together. So that's why I'm willing to figure out how to facilitate great meetings, because the quality of your meeting, which is like, maybe 30 minutes or an hour or 15 minutes, depending on what kind of meeting it is, that is actually an indication of the quality of the whole week. Whatever scope that meeting is talking about, like you have daily meetings, you have weekly meetings, you have monthly meetings, you have quarterly meetings, you have annual meetings, you have strategic meetings that go further out. Whatever the quality of that meeting is, that's going to be the experience that you're pouring into for that scope of time. So if you have a great daily meeting, you can expect a great day. If you have a great weekly meeting, you can expect a great week. If you have a great monthly meeting, you can expect a great month. If you have a great annual meeting, you can expect a great year. But if you go in there and it's slow as molasses, and man, all of the energy and excitement is, somewhere else, and everybody's brain is somewhere else, and they're dragging and lagging in, and they've got all of their old wounds, from the last war that we all fought together. And now you're coming in, you're like, hey, let's rally the troops. We're going further. We're taking new ground, uncharted territory. What do you say? And they're like, where's the beach? I want a vacation. I want to get out of here. Oh, but can it be a paid vacation? It's like, no. The quality of that meeting needs to be valued so that the quality of the work that follows it is just as meaningful. And I'm all for incentivizing and encouraging and investing deeply into your team, and focus on them and what they need personally and self-care, all that. But I'm talking about your level of engagement. Are they bought in? Are they taking ownership? Do they know that we have a mission that matters? Does everyone feel that in the room or not? And that's what a great facilitator does. A great facilitator. So don't say, well, I'm kind of the team leader, but I just don't like my meetings, and I do my own work. Well, then you haven't gotten to this skill yet. Because when you know how much leverage you can gain in your time, in your momentum, and in your teamwork, etc., just by showing up and having a great power hour with the people that matter to you and that will matter to the mission you share, you're going to show up prepared. You're not going to waste time. You're not going to just show up and see what happens. You're not just going to talk around kind of kumbaya style and say, okay, what's everybody feeling? And what do y'all think we should do next? And, yeah, I'm with you. This is really hard. No, you got to show up prepared. You got to be ready, not just to drill details. You got to figure out, how am I going to build a team with these moments, right? It's not just about the information. It's about the implementation that this team is collectively capable of. And so facilitating something valuable is a skill that you and I need to learn. All right. More could be said about that, but I'm not. I'm going to move on to the next one. Let me pull this back and show you the whole roadmap one more time. So you're seeing this with me. We're talking about the essential skills, 5 essential skills that leaders are mastering in order to go to the top in their field. All right. So here they are. Initiate, facilitate, delegate. Now, question, why did we start with initiate? Because that is a self-leadership quality. We already talked about giant leadership presence, how to grow giant leadership presence so you stand tall in your field. Go check that out. It's a fabulous study about self-leadership and Proverbs 6 and all that good stuff. Now we're moving into servant leadership, which is how can I facilitate our values and our goals in a team setting. You're really learning servant leadership. You're trying to pull people together and you're trying to make it work together. Then when you learn how to work with other people, this is so important. When you learn how to work with other people, then you can be trusted to delegate stuff to other people. Now, just think about that. When you have learned how to work with people, have meaningful conversations, have productive meetings, have future-focused plans and goals, where people come out of those conversations and they feel encouraged, and bonus round, they feel empowered. When you can do that consistently, then you can go to the next level, which is delegate. But so many people, they are specifically leaders in the leadership space. What's happening is they are overextended, probably because they're not initiating enough and they don't feel comfortable facilitating yet. And all they want to do is just skip to what everybody's talking about. And some leaders are at that stage. Some leaders have that kind of margin. They have that kind of momentum. They have that kind of money to invest in that strategy, to figure out that skill. But let me tell you something wild. Even if you could delegate today, if you don't have that skill, it would be harder on you than easier. You think it's like so amazing and easy and wonderful. No, you gotta manage people. You have to be a project manager. It's not like you just dump what you don't want to do on somebody else. You still have to own the responsibility of it, but you're leveraging a different strategy, which is you're finding specialists and you're finding people that have time and skills to go further and create a better outcome than what you could do on your own. So it's a different mindset. You kind of have facilitate as the rite of passage before you can go to delegate. Because if you can't work with other people, then you might not be ready to ask other people to work for you. Now, there's different strategies to delegate: in-house, out-house, outsource. Probably be a better way to say that. Forgive me. But you can do part-time. You can develop like apprenticeship kind of situation, internship kind of situation. You can do contract work. And I encourage you, learn that skill. Do it. Go for it. You don't have to wait and say, well, I don't even have a team to facilitate yet. Facilitate just means, can you work with other people? And can you work towards a common goal? And then delegate means people want to be a part of the team you're building. They want to play the game you're winning, not because it's abstract and it's something you're going to do, but because it is practical and it's something you are doing. And so you bring them into this system that is already happening. And a lot of times with delegate, we don't know how to structure ourselves. We don't know how to organize ourselves. We don't know how to explain our own work and our own process. So when it's time to delegate, we're giving them a foggy start. We're saying, hey, I never figured it out, but maybe you will. See ya, bye, later. That's not the motive behind delegating. right? The motive behind delegating is that you trust someone else to follow a path that you have identified that has gotten results, and now you're going to let them jump in. Now you can find coaches like me that will actually build systems with you and for you, but at the end of the day, it's a skill. It's a skill. Delegating is a skill. And leaders who get to the top know how to delegate. They delegate effectively. They delegate easily. They don't make it high pressure. They don't make it like super tense. They're not. They don't micromanage in the name of delegation, right? They really know how to macro mentor. They actually see delegation as an opportunity for leadership development to actually raise up their future capacity of the organization. It's a different game. It's a different mindset. When you know the skill of delegating well, you're actually investing leaders into your future, because you're not just thinking of micromanage, you're thinking of macro mentor. You are thinking like a macro mentor, and you're raising people up to the place where they can initiate, where they can facilitate, where they can delegate. Man, this is getting exciting. We are literally multiplying our executive capacity just by being intentional in specific skills. These are the essentials. So another shift that we have to make from kind of facilitate through delegate is the way that we track progress. Okay. So a writing based approach is going to be really important. Maybe you delegate with verbal, you just say something or you text something and say, take it and get back to me. You actually need a structured approach to delegation. You can't just say, go for it, go figure it out, come back. Because what happens is it may not come back the way you expected, or it may not be sustainable. Maybe the task was done one way a certain time, and then it's not a different way, a different time. So you really do need kind of a phase in your leadership journey where you learn how to develop the skill, and then you work on this system. You say, I want to grow in delegation. So I'm going to take a few days, or I'm going to take a few weeks, and I'm going to build my system, my own pioneering approach. How am I going to delegate in this context? How am I going to delegate well in this season? What do I have to work with? Well, I can't hire yet, but I can do interns, or I can't, do interns, but I'm going to reach out to volunteers, or I can't do that, but I'll do crowdsourcing. I can't do, I have enough in my budget. I can contract. You're figuring out how are you going to leverage not just other people, but skills that you may not have yet or don't want to have, right? And by delegating effectively, yes, you're getting tasks done, but you're also delegating with that mindset, macro mentor. You're thinking about team building. You're thinking about leadership preparedness. You're not just getting preoccupied with being the only leader, but you're actually raising up the leadership capacity of your organization. So facilitate is so important. Let's move to the next one. We're having fun. After you delegate, you get really good at delegating. When you think of delegating, I want you to think of this word sending. Because the value of this skill, delegating well, is now you're getting more done in your absence than your presence. When I learn how to delegate well, I'm getting more done in my absence than my presence. So you can delegate to a system, you can delegate to a software, you can delegate to a team, you can delegate to a company, you can delegate to a person, you can raise up your own team, which I'm really big on. I think that's important. But when you delegate something, they become a delegate for you. Okay, so we're not just thinking about the task, we're thinking about the person. We're thinking about their character, their competency, their chemistry with the other folks on the team, the workflow. That's a skill. It takes a skill to think through those objectives and those logistics. How are they going to function outside of my circle? my circle of influence. I'm not going to be there. I've delegated it. So like, if you have to have constant communication to call it delegation, it's not delegation, right? When you're facilitating, people are still kind of in your zone. You're rallying them to you. You're bringing them together. We're doing the work together, the planning together. I'm kind of, laying things out. It feels great. Let's go. We have these checkpoints. We're coming back together. When you delegate, you send. You're sending people further than you. You're sending them into new team territories. They're going to spend time that you don't have to develop skills and areas that you can explore. All right. They're going to get geeky on marketing. They're going to go to a granular level. They're going to get specialized in another area, right? You're delegating, different levels of delegating. Okay. I hope you're catching what I'm throwing here, but different levels of delegating, but the motion is not come facilitate here. Let me make sure we're all working together. Let's make sure we're all focused and we all have our, input, and this is important and what we're doing is important and we're a team and all this stuff. Now we're delegating. Whoosh. We're sending, we're launching, we're flying. Some are flopping. All right, come back. Let's work at it some more. Delegating. We're creating delegates for the organization. We're creating delegates for the brand. We're creating delegates for the movement. We're learning how not just to lead in this circle of influence, we're learning how to launch our team into other spaces. All right. Others are going to start leading online. Others are going to start leading in this community. Others are going to start leading. See, that's the trajectory of doing delegation well. But if you just want to aim for low-hanging fruit and stay there all day, yeah, you'll get a few tasks done. You'll get a few hours back. But if you know how to delegate as a skill and you're not just doing it as a painkiller, but you're actually saying, no, this is a muscle that I want to work on over time because I know this is how the top leaders go further, right? I'm not just saying delegate tasks. I'm saying create a delegate from the team that's gonna have responsibility. That I use this phrase sometimes. If I'll skip it. Okay. So now that you're sending them out, what's the challenge? You don't know what's going on out there. You're wondering, is it working or not? You're wondering, how's the morale? You're wondering where are the metrics? You're wondering, what's the revenue look like? You're wondering. You've got questions. You actually have more questions as you get better in your leadership journey. The further you go in your leadership journey, the more questions you're going to have. And you got to be okay with that, right? The goal is not that I go further and then I've just figured it all out. I'm now the answer man. That's why, it's kind of silly, but what you're doing is you have to humble yourself and say, you know what? I probably know less than I did when I started this because more people are doing more things that are out of my wheelhouse. And so now my service to the organization, my contribution to the team is to gain wisdom. Gain wisdom. If you don't have wisdom, then all these delegates that are going out, it's going to multiply the headaches, the heartbreaks. It's going to multiply. I mean, you feel like you've got an empire, right? Oh man, look, I've got this empire. I'm delegating this. I'm delegating that. I outsource that. I automate that. I eliminate that. I'm doing all this stuff. I look at my empire. But if you don't know what's really going on out there on the front lines and in the fringes, you're actually creating the context for so much craziness. Just all kinds of things that could be festering in your team culture. You have no idea. And so the caring leader is now going to shift gears once again, is now going to be willing to reimagine their role, their purpose in the organization or in the movement. And they're going to say, hey, I need to learn how to investigate. I need to learn how to investigate what's going on. And that's a skill, because when you initiate, I mean, you don't know how it's going to go, but you know what you're doing. When you facilitate, you know a lot of what's happening. When you delegate, you give pieces away. But when you investigate, what you're saying is, this thing is growing, it's moving faster than me, and I have to stay on top of it in a new way. And I have to be humble enough to get intelligence, to get insights, to get feedback, to get wisdom. And I've got to have a more structured approach to the way we are learning as a team. I need a much more structured approach to investigate. Is it really working like I think it is? Are we really winning like I think we are? And not settle for assuming. You can't settle for assuming. And here you are. You're like, oh, this is amazing. We have scale. We have velocity. We're doing stuff. And every single day, you're just on a razor edge between, flying and flopping. And there are things that are happening and you don't know why they're happening. If you're winning and you don't know why you're winning, you need to pump the brakes and you need to investigate why you're winning. If there's an area in your team or your organization and it's just not clicking, it used to be cool, but it's just not working right now. You need to stop and investigate why it's not working. If there's a high capacity leader in your organization, don't delegate more on them. Figure out, why are they a high capacity leader? What was a part of their journey? What are some of the decision points that got them there? What are some of the contributing factors? How can we learn from that? How can we export some of that into our leadership community overall? You've got to be a learner and a student, and more than that, just an investigator. Now, one of the words I was thinking of was evaluate. Let me show you what I mean. Right? I was like, man, I have two eyes. I have two eyes here. I have initiate, I have facilitate. Initiate, facilitate, delegate, investigate. And so you're looking at there and you're like, oh, well, I1, I2. What was that? So I was like, what if I just said E? So then it'd be IDE. Wait, IF, IFDEC. Evaluate. That's kind of the same thing, right? No. Evaluate's not the same. Investigate means you have to go looking. You have to take this seriously. I didn't say interrogate. You're not interrogating people, but you have to investigate. You got to be good at gaining wisdom. You have to be persistent with having the data and having the decision points that are necessary, because the more you delegate, the more removed you become from what's really happening on the front lines. And leaders care about both the front lines and the home front. And so I just want to caution you. Many of you are already at that stage, but you don't have the tools to really investigate what's going on. And so it's creating a lot of apprehension. It's creating a lot of heaviness on your heart and mind. And so I would tell you, you need to pick up the skills and you need to get a fresh strategy on how you're investigating, not to blame people, not to, punish people, but it goes both ways. If something great is going on, you need to know why it's working. If something's not going well, you need to know why it's not working. And investigating is going to be a big skill that helps you stay healthy. Because if you don't investigate, someone else will. Can I say it? If you don't investigate what's really going on, someone else will. So integrity matters. Transparency matters. Accountability matters. Come on. You got to be holding a high standard. Holding a high standard at the heart level. What are our values? Do we have leadership alignment? Are we going with a future focus or not? You have to have a high standard in your systems. You have to have a high standard in your community experience, your customer experience. You have to hold a high standard. And if you're not investigating, you're just assuming. And that's a really dangerous place to be. All right, the last one I want to talk about is communicate. Communicate. Communication is one of the strongest skills any leader can make. And when you know how to communicate effectively, you can go so far, so far. If you want to just see the raw power of communicating effectively, I just go to the Bible. I mean, look at Genesis, history, not just cool stories. What really happened is that our Creator, right? He is Creator, we are creation. But our Creator used words to communicate intentionality, design. Our Creator literally, I'm so inspired by all of the knowledge, all the information. I mean, just all the information that's packed in your DNA, all of the complexity that's packed in everything, plants and animals and things. I mean, there's just so much intentionality and design, and it got, for lack of a better phrase, transferred. It got, shared by communication. So that's the case study for us. I'm not saying that we apply it at the same level for sure. But I mean, you have to take ownership of your thought life. You have to take ownership of what's going on inside of you. You have to take ownership of the way you show up around other people. And communication is your ability to pioneer the future. And what's the main breakdown at this level, after you initiate, no momentum, right? You have no momentum in your life. You're not getting things going. You got to get something going in your health. You got to get something going in your finances. You got to get something going in your day. You got to get something going, in terms of your life, right? Time to initiate. Then you don't have direction. Everybody's kind of doing their own thing. Everybody's got their own ideas, their own opinions, their own thing. Okay, now it's time to facilitate. Let's get some common ground. Let's get some common language. Let's get some common best practices. Let's facilitate so we can take territory together as a team. Then you're at the delegate stage, right? You don't have bandwidth. You don't have any bandwidth to do this and that and go here and there. I mean, because this thing is really taking shape. So now it's time to delegate. Then you don't have information. You don't have the logic. You don't have the understanding to know what's really going on. You have questions, more questions. So you got to get and investigate. This last stage of the leadership journey, and again, this is not exhaustive. These are just essentials. But this last stage is that the team that you have poured heart and soul into, and the work, your life's work that matters, it needs a future. And it needs a future beyond you. You cannot be everything to your life's work. It won't happen. If you care about what you've started, you want it to continue and you want it to go further than you. And so through, your ability to share a vision that is worth waiting on and working towards, your ability to make a verdict on making consequential statements, your ability to release other pioneer thinkers, to go into the spaces that you didn't have time to go to, your ability to seed the future with concepts and instructions that matter for their work. All of this comes through the means of communication. And I'm going to drop one more idea on us, but a lot of leaders assume that their communication is effective. And it might be effective enough for where you are, but our communication can get sharper. It can get sharper. And so never settle, with the power of communication, and learn, how are we communicating effectively? How are we communicating strategically? How are we communicating with empathy? How are we communicating with a sense of empowerment? How are we communicating for, towards human flourishing? How are we communicating our worldview, our vision of a braver, brighter future? And I'm not just talking about the world. I think there are plenty of pioneer thinkers that are needed and welcomed in those spaces. But what about your world, right? What about your family? What about your shop? What about your community, right? Communicate a future that's worth working on and waiting for. That, communicate the why. We've heard that. Simon Sinek's done an awesome job with that. But communication is not just kind of luxury laptop lifestyle and, I just type a few words and then poof, that's my work. My job's over. I'm the thought leader now. No, communication it's tough because you're navigating unfamiliar territory, and more often the things we communicate do make us think about where we're going, right? And so a caring leader is going to take the time to do those other steps. They're going to walk the walk. They're going to involve others. They're going to empower others. They're going to be a learner and a student. And then they're going to share a future that is compelling. And so I could say more, but I'm going to stop. Time to. If I haven't said it yet, you'll just have to figure it out on your own. And I know you will. I just wanted to encourage you and let you know that you got it. These are essential skills. And I would ask you, where are you at now? Let me know in the comments which skill resonates with you. Do you feel like you need that confidence to just get going? Do you need to learn some tools and some structure to pull people together? Do you need systems and rhythms that help you delegate more effectively? Do you need advisors? And do you need strategies to investigate more thoroughly? Do you need time and motivation to get really clear, to be really, really sharp about what you are saying? Those are the questions I want to pitch. I'd be remiss not to mention communication comes in many formats. And so you don't just have to be a public speaker. You could be a writer. You can be a storyteller. There's a ton of options for creatives. There's a lot of amazing creative leaders. You'll have to learn that multi-tool of communication. And there are amazing coaches, thought leaders, pioneers that are modeling that. And there probably are great resources. So check that out as well. So where are you and how are you going to level up? Because the top leaders, the leaders who get to the top of their field, they are willing to take on a new skill set. And that's why I think it's so important that we learn the right way to our future self faster. We learn the right way to initiate. We learn the right way to facilitate. We learn the right way to delegate. We learn the right way to investigate. We learn the right way to communicate. It's tough, but I'm gonna give you the big idea. The right way to do anything is intentionally, not accidentally. And the most productive people, like I said, are not just getting things done, but they're actually getting the right things done in the right order, with the right people, for the right reasons. And productivity for a leader is like oxygen. If you're not able to get yourself going, to keep yourself going, to help other people join you in that movement, and then to keep it on track for the long haul, and then give it a clear sense of direction beyond you, then, your productivity is good, but probably not great. So that's not a dig. That's an encouragement to dig. Keep digging in, keep working, keep putting in the future work. And that's what Future Fridays are all about, to add fuel to your focus, to let you know that what you're doing is valuable, to let you know that what you're doing is worth it, to let you know that there are other people counting on you to go the distance and make a difference. And that if you couldn't make it here, then why are you trying to get there? But because you've already come so far, because you've already done so much, because you've already accomplished under so many difficulties, you've taken on so much compound difficulty, isn't that hope that you're going to figure out the next phase? Isn't that encouragement that you're not alone? And isn't that reason enough to do whatever it takes to help others win with you? So I'm fired up about this. I want to keep learning. I want to keep leveling up, and I want to keep leading with other leaders in mind. And so that's why I created a productivity masterclass. And this productivity masterclass is called The Right Way. It's going to show you my writing-based system to navigate and create my future. And it's about 90 minutes. It's a conversation similar to this, but it's really going to give you my philosophy on productivity. And then it's going to show you my writing-based system. It's a very lightweight productivity system. You can add all the tools you want to it, but it's more about you as a leader, right? It's not just about the tools and the tactics and the hacks. It's about you becoming your future self, right? It's about you finding the right way to your future self faster, so you don't waste time and discourage other people that are waiting on you to show up as a leader and someone who's a strength and not a burden. So please, I'll put the link in this video right after this, but check out The Right Way. It is my productivity masterclass. All right. Well, if you enjoyed this conversation, please let me know in the comments, or you can find me on my Instagram. Let me review the big 5 again. These are the leadership essentials I really want you to focus on, so that way you can be like the other executive leaders that have reached the top of their fields and that have gone the longest. They still have their joy. They have their endurance. They still have a sense of camaraderie with the people they work with. And it's because they have learned how to initiate, facilitate, delegate, investigate, and communicate really, really well. Keep going keep going for it. Keep doing what you're doing. Remember, I am here to pioneer with you. And that's why I'm going to be showing up again and again. I'll give you more opportunities you can check out later. Remember, you're going places, so prepare to go there. See ya next Friday.